to it. So I think we can get started. My name is Seth Yoder. I'm the network administrator at eClass for Learning. So that means I handle all the server-side components of our business. If you're not familiar with eClass for Learning, we are a full solution e-learning provider. So that means we host a number of different LMS systems. We have e-commerce solutions. We do course development, onboarding, technical support, server hosting, analytics for all of your courses, and other various customizations like theme work and other custom kinds of development. So our webinar today, here's an example of the Q&A system. That's what should pop up if you go into your little Zoom panel and hit the little icon that says Q&A. It may be stuck under the menu that says More. It depends on what Zoom version you're using. So this webinar is going to be pretty simple. It's just about, like I said, setting up tracking at the activity level, how to set up course completion settings, and then setting up badges and linking them to different completion settings. These are items that sort of a lot of users tend to get hung up on, or a lot of instructors or course designers, just because it can seem really complicated at first, but once you start using the system, you'll find that it does get pretty intuitive pretty quickly. I see one of you has raised your hand. I see you have submitted a question. Oh, the question here is, what are badges? So badges are, well, you'll actually get to see it in action. Badges are essentially it's like when a user has completed some set of criteria, they can earn a badge in Moodle and Totara. And it gets displayed on their homepage, sort of with a little icon that says, what the badge is for. You'll get to see, I'll take you through the whole system so you can sort of see how that works. Thanks for the question. If you have any questions about this webinar, and I'll bring this up at the end too, you can contact our Chief Education Officer, Tammy Frame. This is her email here. But I'll leave this up at the end so that you can all contact us if you have any issues. So let's get to it. Oops. All right, I have to get this Zoom panel. Okay. So here I have a test Totara site. Totara is, if you're familiar with Moodle, Totara is essentially Moodle with a few more customizations, and it's very good. It has multi-tenancy options. So if you have maybe a collection of schools or a collection of institutions, Totara can handle that really well. So this is a course that we've set up as sort of a test course. Right now, the completion settings for this course are pretty much at default. So the settings right now say that for each activity, a student can go ahead and mark whether or not they've completed the activity. That's the most sort of basic way to set it up, but it also relies on your students a lot. It relies on their ability and them remembering to click this little checkbox on each activity. So I'm going to start out with setting completions at activity levels. First, I'm going to go ahead and turn editing on. This is kind of the first step anytime that you want to modify anything in a course. Hit this turn editing on button. It's under this course administration dropdown. So once I do that, the page will reload and we'll have all these edit links here. Now I'm going to use this one activity that says practice. It's a seminar, essentially. So if I want to change the way that we track completion in this activity, I'm going to click on this edit dropdown. I'll hit edit settings. And now we have the general settings for this whole activity. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to collapse this general section because we don't need that right now. Scroll down to activity completion. This is what's interesting here. This is what we're trying to look at. So right now we see that completion tracking is set to students can manually mark the activity as completed. So like I said, that's kind of simplistic. So we'd like a more automated solution here maybe. So instead I'm gonna change it to show activity as complete when conditions are met. And then we can start setting up some conditions here. Right now I'm going to say to complete this activity, the student just has to go in and view the module. So I'll click that little checkbox. Other options are pretty self-explanatory. Students have to receive a grade or have to attend. In this module, it's a seminar, so it will automatically know if the student has attended the seminar, attended part of it, or attended the whole thing. You can also set dates here. So if the student hasn't, if I set this to May 1st and the student hasn't met this criteria by May 1st, it will not be shown as completed for them. So now I'm going to go ahead and after I've changed these settings, hit save and return to course. So now we have this one activity that has a different completion setting than the rest. You see this little icon is slightly different than the other icons. This circle icon here, if I mouse over it, it'll explain what it means. So here it says the system marks this item complete according to conditions. Whereas if I mouse over this one, it says students can manually mark this item complete. So now I'm going to actually flip over to my student view. I have another browser window open as if I were a student in this course. I believe the student actually isn't enrolled yet, so we're going to go through and enroll them. So this is our student, Carlos Sample. I'm going to go flip over to my admin view and enroll him in my course. So go down to course administration, hit users, go to enrolled users, and then I can find this button over here that says enroll users. And I'll search for Carlos. Here he is. I'm going to enroll him. And we'll hit finish. So now I'm going to flip back over to Carlos's view and refresh my page. All right, so you'll see that for all of these activities, they all kind of have blank checkboxes where I can mark them as complete, because if you remember, all the settings were set to students can manually mark items as complete. So if I want, I can go ahead and complete practice 2, and that checkbox gets checked. Now, typically, this circle checkbox here would be unchecked, but I had gone through and clicked the link before as Carlos. So, for example, if I went through and clicked this link and then moved back, then the checkbox would be marked complete, because in our settings for this activity, we specified that as soon as the user views the module, it'll be set to complete. So I'm going to go run through that again, maybe with the other practice seminar, just very quickly, so we see how this flow sort of works. So this is back on my admin side. I'm going to go edit practice 3, edit settings, scroll down all the way to activity completion. Once the page finishes loading, I will expand this section, specify that that we will mark the activity as complete once some conditions are met. And let's say that the student has to view the activity to complete it. Then I'll return to the course and flip back over to my student view right here. I will refresh my page. So now you see that practice 3 has an empty circle. And if I mouse over it, it says not completed. If I go ahead and view it like we specified, and then go back to the blended Franklin course or test course, now this circle has a check mark in it, saying that I've completed it. So I'm gonna hold up there for like 30 seconds just to see if any of you have questions about that. You can go ahead and, if you weren't with us at the beginning, I showed that in Zoom, you have a little Q&A icon, and you can click that to submit a question to me. So, okay. So the next thing I'm going to touch on is course completion. This is slightly more complicated than individual activity completion, but it's still not, it's still pretty intuitive. So I'm going to switch back over to my admin view, refresh the course. I'm going to scroll down here to my administration block. This is kind of where all the magic happens. Hit this course completion page. And now we have the course completion settings. So at the top here, we can set our general requirements. We have only 2 options here. We say the course is complete when all conditions are met or when any of the conditions are met. So it's just a little bit of logic here. I'll show you how that kind of combines in a sec. The one I'm going to test with first is this activity completion condition. So you can think of all these sections as sort of different conditions that get combined and processed by this option here, the completion requirements option. So for activity completion, I'm going to go ahead and say if the practice 3 activity and the practice activity are both complete, then our condition for activity completion will be met. So I'm checking these 2 boxes. I'm going to scroll down. We have a checkbox for every single activity that's in this course. And then at the very bottom of this section, we have condition requires all selected activities to be completed. So what that means is that if I have both those activities completed, practice and practice 3, then this whole condition, this activity completion condition will be met. So I'm going to make sure that I don't have any conflicting settings here. There are all kinds of conditions you can set here, and all of them are a little bit self-explanatory. We have, say, you have to complete other courses in order to complete this course. You have to remain enrolled until a certain date, or you have to be enrolled for a certain number of days. We have a student has to earn a certain grade in a course over some threshold. There's also a self-completion block in Moodle. You can add a block to a course that allows a user to mark for themselves whether a course has been completed. So I'm going to set this to any so that if any of these conditions are met, right now none of them are actually activated except for activity completion. If you see, because that's the only one that I've modified and the only one for which I've checked any of these checkboxes. So now if I have a student such as Carlos who has completed both the practice seminar and the practice 3 seminar, he should receive a completion for the whole course. So I'm going to hit save changes, make sure those go through. And if we remember, our test student, Carlos, has completed both of those activities just by viewing them because of the way that we set it up. So I'm going to run over here to our reports section. This is under the administration block under course administration. So we can hit reports and go to our course completion report. And now we have a row for every single user that's enrolled in this course. I'm going to flip down to Carlos here. You'll see that this circle checkbox is completed. That means that, that he's completed the requirements for both of these criteria groups. So we have the recognition of prior learning for the practice activity and practice 3. And you see that both of those checkboxes are marked, meaning that he's completed both of those activities, and therefore he has completed the course. So I'm going to go back to Blended Franklin, and I'm going to pause for another 30 seconds to a minute to see if any of you have questions about that. Again, you can submit it using that Q&A button. All right, so if none of you have questions, you can submit them at any time. There's no need to be shy about it. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about badges. Now, badges are, like I said earlier, they're awarded to students who fulfill some set of criteria. So I'm going to set up a badge that essentially says if a student has completed this course, they will receive a badge. It's the most simple one you can probably make. So I'm going to go down to our administration menu under course administration, find this badges drop down and say manage badges. We'll see that for this course, we don't have any badges yet, so I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. And this badge, I'm just going to call it course completion. All right, so we have a name for the badge, course completion for test course, a description, and then we get to upload an image. I'm just uploading a random image here from a computer. Let's see, demo badge. I'll upload that file using a little dialog here. And then we have to stick in some an issuer name, so I'm just going to put my name in and my email address, so that if the users have any questions about the badge, they can contact me. I'll go ahead and create the badge, and the system should alert me that no criteria have been set up yet. So I'm just going to add a single criterion here, course completion. So you can set up a few more options here. You can require a minimum grade, and you can have a date by which the student needs to have completed the course. I'm not going to put any description in. And now we also have to enable access to the badge before users can be awarded it. So I'm going to hit that button, enable access. Confirm it once. It's saying that it'll lock the settings. So once I enable this badge, I can't really change the settings to it unless I unlock it again. So now we see the badge is currently available to users and the criteria are locked. I'm going to switch back over to my student view now. So now I'm back in Carlos's account. And I'm going to scroll down here to badges for the course. Then we see that I've been awarded that badge saying course completion for test course with the description that I put in. And it also lists the criteria that are associated with that badge. That if I have, we'll see if I go to my dashboard here, if we have this badges block set up, the user will see this badge pop up on their dashboard. So now I have this new one that says course completion for test course. So as soon as I log in as Carlos, this is the first thing I'm going to see, badges for each course that I've completed or anything that I've set up. So there was a user who asked at the beginning, essentially what our badge is, and this is your answer here. It's mostly just a mark of achievement for the user, and a lot of our clients like to use them for, for example, we host some Girl Scouts websites for whom it's very pertinent. For each course that they complete, they get a new Girl Scout badge. So I'm going to have a couple minutes open for questions here. I will leave up our contact info. And if you have any questions or something you want me to go over again, you can just submit into that Q&A button and I will go over it with you one more time. All right, it looks like no one submitted any questions. So if you have any more, you can email at this email address, tframe@eclassforlearning.com. You can call our number at 1-800-408-4935, or you can hit our website and there's a support form there. And I'll also be emailing a copy of a recording of this webinar to everyone in attendance. So you should get that relatively soon within the next day. Thanks so much for coming, and I hope to see you back again.